Not sure if you could see him yet, but there's a squirrel right here, folks. He wants a nut, I think. Oh, he's stepping on the computer. I hope he doesn't turn off the stream. Here. Come here. I have a nut for you. Come here. This squirrel and its family have been bugging me for nuts all week ever since I fed them a couple of these walnuts, because I know the neighbors have already been feeding these squirrels who are more acclimated to eating trash and random junk. And so, although you shouldn't feed random wild squirrels in a park and such, these squirrels right here were okay to improve the diet of. And this squirrel's on the ground right there, just completely stalking me. It was on the table a second ago. I don't know if you can see its claws flying around. Here we go. Where are you, buddy? Come here. You need a nut? Okay. Come here. Okay, well now it's going back around the other way, and now I look foolish just holding this nut around here. I swear the squirrel will be back for its nut in a minute, so what we'll do until then is just set up its little picnic table that I have, a miniature desk upon a desk for the squirrel to sit in, and we will then commence our normal stream. And I'll have my eye out on this for when the squirrel's hungry enough to jump back on the desk and go to its little picnic table. And in the future, maybe we'll get some miniature pens and a miniature whiteboard and such for the squirrel to have its miniature combo classroom as well. And somebody asked if rabies can transfer. And in general, I looked up things about squirrel bites, said that no human has yet caught rabies from a squirrel. It said that they pretty much never, or almost never, carry rabies, and that we don't think they can pass it to humans. So if I catch rabies from a squirrel, we'll at least go down in history as the first human to have ever caught rabies from a squirrel. We still don't want that to happen, because when we do a rabies episode, that will be a quite creepy one. Rabies does this very creepy stuff and has practically no cure. Now, until our squirrel friends and other friends come back, there's also a bee friend that some people get quite sketched about, but I don't think bees are the end of the world. This one looks like maybe a honeybee-ish fella, so those are nice. They pollinate and such. Until we get our squirrel friends or other visitors back, or other things to distract me, I'll move forward toward some of the main topics I wanted to chat about today. Welcome back to our combo classroom, where I am Domotro, your teacher as usual, and we do have a new main episode I put out just a couple days ago, so make sure that before or after you watch the rest of this stream, you check a look at that link in the description, or just looking up the Combo Class channel, my other channel with the best main episodes. And the new one is one of the longer episodes ever dropped on there, all about clocks. And since the episode was about a lot of my interpretations of ways in which we could change the clock system, including, for example, fractions, and including putting zeros on top of some of them on top instead of 12s, and including other possibilities, like somewhere around here I have my negative numbers clock, if it made it out of that episode in one piece. I'm not sure. Not all the clocks make it out of all the episodes in one piece. And so, negative numbers, fractions, and all sorts of options for how I think we could improve the clock system are in that last episode. And those are technically measurements of a sort of time. And time isn't the only thing you can measure. So that episode, in a way, was deconstructing a very specific type of measurement, which has a lot, to say about, because in the specificness of a type of measurement, we get daily activities and cultural rituals and such. And this one was focused on how you split up a day. how you split a day into hours, minutes, and seconds. So essentially, behind the premise of we need to fix the clocks, if we're looking on a bigger scale, is there are many ways to measure things, and assuming one of our measurements is going to be taking the day cycle, the rotation, which is a real natural phenomena in space of a day passing, we're going to divide that into 24s or 12s or whatever you choose. But there are other things as well we could think about measuring, and it connects it, for example, to a calendar episode I did a while ago, and in the future we may do more calendar episodes. Those focus on ways you could divide the year. Now, these are ways of dividing time, and there's also increments you could use for time of other sorts of fashion, but those aren't the only sorts of measurement that you could try and measure a unit of. You get distance, you get temperature. And it was interesting when I thought about this. I was like, what are all the things you can measure? There's like color, and you could say that color can be measured with a few different traits, such as tint versus which mix of reds, greens, and blues, or reds, yellows, and blues if you're using the paint, the additive or subtractive. And what else can you measure? Like temperature. It was interesting to think through, because in our life, we use terms to describe a lot of things. A lot of them are how long something lasts, how big something is, how far a distance something moved, or things like that. But there are others, like temperature and weight, a variety, how magnetic something is, you could have a measurement for. Theoretically, you could say how much of strong nuclear force is at play right here. I'm measuring that. Right now, maybe it's close to zero. But actually, I don't know about the strong nuclear force much. But in general, I was looking at what other ways are there to measure. And you know that I love finding lists of things, sort of like encyclopedias or glossaries or things like that. And sometimes Wikipedia has some epic lists that categorize a lot of things that completely dodges the type of criticism many people give Wikipedia. Oh, it's not accurate. Well, first of all, don't quote this live stream in your research paper. If I was putting these facts in an episode, I would look up the citations that Wikipedia was using to check that their citations were correct or thorough enough for such. But some things can't be wrong. They're just telling you this is a way of thinking about it. This is a way of dividing it. Now, also with the historical things, the thing that Wikipedia could be wrong about on any of these lists would be maybe over understating some cultural's historical role in something, or whether two things were necessarily linked or not. But expressing an idea of, temperature is something you could measure. You could go on absolute value, or you could go starting from the point of water boiling or stuff like that. Like, how could it be wrong? These are things that if you're thinking through each step, you can deduce yourself. And a good glossary sometimes can almost be self-deductive in some mathematical fields. But in any case, I pulled open a few glossaries when I was scrolling through some of these thoughts, and I realized some of these, before I actually read much of these pages, before I go deep down into these lists on Wikipedia, I should do it live with my combo lords, because this seems like the type of thing that not only would my viewers find funny and interesting, but that they might enjoy my commentary on. And so we're going to be looking at today in our stream some unusual units of measurement. Oh man, the thing, it's stuck on humorous units. That's not humorous, so that it's stuck there. Okay, it always does this thing where it freezes on the page I had open when I started the stream. So we're going to look glitchy for a second and redo that. And we're going to be looking at some here. That'll be our new humorous list of measurement, is how many Domotros your live stream was. It's in terms of technical mishaps. It's out of 0 to 6 Domotros. You can't actually get a 6. It goes up to approaching 6 as the highest. And so if you get like 5 Domotros, that would mean you like leaked all of your documents and photos and broke your computer. And if you get like a 3 on the Domotro scale on the live stream, then that just means you did what I often do on live streams, like accidentally make the wrong audio come out or something. But in any case, now I think I fixed it, and we're going to be looking at some unusual units of measurement, then some obsolete units of measurement, although we may begin with obsolete and then go to unusual, and then humorous units of measurement. Now, I'm not sure to what degree of overlap there are on these 3 pages, because like I said, I have not read through them much. I have read further through units of measurement once, which is its own article, but this is more of a descriptive article than a glossary-like list. These are just going to give us a list of different obsolete, unusual, and humorous units of measurement. Now, we can also think about what other units of measurement could be useful to create or to add, or to bring back if we see any that were once obsolete but that still have some interesting potential. And thank you to everybody leaving comments so far. As usual, feel free to leave any thoughts. I will check that every once in a while for any questions or etc. Somebody asked if this table was from IKEA. It was not. It was, well, maybe. It was given to me by a neighbor, so I don't know. My neighbor also feeds the squirrels, found out I was a fan as well. And the neighbor feeds the squirrels on a little table like this. So I believe she wanted me to feed the squirrels in a similar fashion sometimes so that they get comfortable eating off these little tables from multiple parties. Now, I'll repeat, the squirrel will probably come back to eat this, but don't feed wild squirrels in a random park. These squirrels are semi-adopted by the neighborhood, and it would be hard to prevent anyway because they're always just in our fruit trees looking for stuff to eat. So now, looking at some strange units of measurement, we are, and last reminder before we jump into this, because when I jump into ranting about my commentary and whatever I think's funny about this and whatever, we'll go down some rabbit holes. Before we jump down into all those rabbit holes, I'll remind anyone who leaves early to make sure that you do, after you watch the stream, make sure you've seen the newest Combo Class episode on the Combo Class channel, because I'm not going to talk about clocks very much we're going to encounter some time measurements, but I'm going to be talking less about ways of dividing the day in my commentary on stuff today, because the latest episode is 25 minutes of that. So, jumping into this now, and also just thank you to everybody who's watching. I love you all. Hope you have a great day. To jump into some obsolete units of measurement organized by type. By obsolete, what they mean is that they are no longer common, that they are below some threshold of commonness, that we could say this probably means that less than a 3-digit amount of people use any of these measurements yearly. So, but obsolete, of course, is subjective, because would you call something obsolete if 1 person on the planet still uses it? Probably. How about if 10 people on the planet still use it? I don't know. You got to start asking questions. Now, here, the answer, this doesn't have an article of its own, but right of the beginning, I love these rabbit holes where you're like, okay, I want to learn the first nickname. Well, what's the definition of the first nickname? It is defined in terms of a different nickname. It's like the classic weird numbers, which are defined as numbers which are abundant numbers, but not semi-perfect numbers. That one you have to learn two new. Yeah, when you jump into trying to learn weird numbers, you come in needing to learn one definition, and after you get the definition, you all of a sudden need to learn two definitions. Here we are at an equal place to where we started. We would now know what the Ansinge is if we now learn what the Bunarium is. The Bunarium is another unit of area. It's 120 acres. Now, an acre, that's a common unit. An acre is something I've never had a great time grasping quite how big it is. So it's 100 meters by 100 meters. And what I'm used to comparing that to is like a city block. But I live in a city that has blocks where there's a lot of rectangular streets that have between them a very small block may have an acre between it, but the bigger ones may have a few. And it grows multiplicatively. Like if I think it's, or it even grows, exponentially in this case to the second degree exponential because we're squaring it as we get bigger, where if I'm 200 feet across, I don't have 2 acres, I have 4 acres. You could fit in a 200 by 200. And so I live in a city that is city-like enough to have squares, but not city-like enough that all the squares are equal sizes. So I always have a hard time envisioning what an acre is. I guess it's like a very large garden or a small city block. So 120 acres, well, a hectare right here, it says, is, wait, no, wait, whoa, this is getting, I was getting misled by this diagram. I clicked acre here. Airs. I thought it's not acres. Okay, you gotta look out for your C's. And this is all C's fault. The letter C sometimes is trying to be a this, sometimes it's trying to be a that. I snuck a C in there mentally because C's are too tricky and do all sorts of random stuff. It's airs. What an air is a sector of a hectare. It's not related to acres. Wrong. How big is an acre? An acre's a bit smaller than that. 100 meters sounded big. Because, yeah, 100 meters, or I don't know. How big is an acre? Wait. An acre is an air? And it sounds the same here. An acre is 0.405 hectares. And an air is a smaller one. Okay, no, an acre is 0.405 hectares. But this unit is not defined in those. It's defined in a different one called airs, which are smaller. An air, I guess, is 1/100th of a hectare. Because it's 1/10 of a hectare in each direction. So the Ansinge and the Bunarium, I don't know if we need to learn any more about those. I think that those have enough to teach us. Now, this one, they don't have descriptions. Some of these other ones have descriptions next to what we will be talking about. There are so many wacky ones here that I didn't go through this in advance and take notes. I figured we're just going to have to go in and trust the history's silliness for that. Okay, people for some reason had a reason of using each of these. For some reason, each of these was a thing at some point in history. And on this one where they don't put the descriptions under them, we will just hover over them for a bit, which gives us the very intro of them. So this is a medieval, an old-fashioned time when this is a good one. I love the ones that are boring are like a Bonaire, whatever. Those are just now we could put in terms of meters and feet, and there's so many different ones that just describe a standard length. And those will be funny to see why they picked certain lengths as their unit, like what they picked to be 1. But I find even funnier the ones like this, where it's vague or subjective. This is a land area that is approximately the amount of land that a plow team of 8 oxen could till in a single year. Or a single annual season, I assume means 1 year. Now, it was for tax assessment, I guess. I guess the government's like, that's how much, you guys are plowing that much with, you can plow, 8 oxen could plow that amount in 2 years, so we're charging you for 2 carcates. It may sometimes be considered about 120 acres. All right. Then you always have so many divisions. Whenever one unit is useful, if you look into it, there's going to be like 10 more nicknames that describe different fractions of it. Well, here you got to divide them into ox gangs, into hides, which are divided into yardlands, which are also known as vergets. So that one's interesting. And a connie is another obsolete one that is an approximate amount of units. A decimal, they say. This is a term that is used for many things. It is 1/100th of an acre. This makes sense because decimal is 1/10, and it's 1/10 in each side, in each unit, each direction. Here, we're going to skim through the ones that are equal to a fixed amount of size. I'm more interested in the ones here that are like this. A Jukart. Okay, of course, I'm going to be pronouncing these brutally wrong. So I'm just going to go for it with the pronunciations instead of, saying, however this is pronounced for half of them. We're just going to, in this case, assume it's Jukart. Was a unit of, I guess I'm pronouncing it like a ch because I have a Jew heart. I am mostly Jewish, but I don't know where, no, this is from French or Italian, I don't know. So it was a unit of area measurement used in rural Switzerland until the early 20th century. What was it? The amount of farmland that a man could plow in 1 day. Similar to a morgen, the amount of land tillable by one man with an ox in the morning hours of the day. So this is very interesting. Tells us just from how these units are compared. I have learned something about farm life. I have learned that one man can plow a similar amount of land in a day on his own that a man with an ox could plow over the morning hours. That won't come in handy in my life, but it is very interesting to see that this was useful enough at some point or time to be the main unit or description. Now, what is a jugerum? A square actus. It's twice a square actus. And Pliny the Elder states that portion of land used to be known as jugerum, which was capable of being plowed by a single jugum, or yoke of oxen, in 1 day. An actus being as much as the oxen could plow at a single spell, fairly estimated without stopping. The last was 120 feet in length, and 2 in length made a jugerum. Why would you define it as being twice another thing? Or maybe they just noticed it was about twice the other thing. So, now, something that we're going to have to go and do later is some units of measurement are not to measure things that are in the universe, in nature, but to measure things that we decide by society we have to implement. For example, currency, measuring how much a coin will be worth of different amounts. And they're very impractical how much the coins are worth. It's weird. Like here in America, the amount of cents you get, the smaller units go 1. The next one is 5 times bigger, 5. The next one is 2 times bigger, 10 cents. The next one is 2.5 times bigger, 25 cents. The next one, and even if you delete the dime, you have, some are 4 times and 5 times bigger, which makes it fit into hundreds a little better. But the system's a little weird with which things they designated bills or coins at different points in history. And that's a whole topic for a different day. A katha is a unit that means it varies significantly from place to place. And it's defined in terms of how many feet or stuff, but it varies. That's funny. It doesn't even say like how they define it. It just says they have different measurements for it. So that would suck if like you rented out a room for a night that was 1 cubic or 1 square katha square footage or something. And you go and they're like, no, around here, katha means this much, not that much. So lessa is the this does not have much information at all. It's a customary unit. It became obsolete. And the conversion is still debated to this day. Well, we're going to have to be some of the ones still debating it because I'm more confused than anyone who wrote this even now, because I don't even know what it is. Is it a measurement of distance, time, space, what? Oh, these are all area. Yeah, we're in area. So it's some amount of square footage. I don't know how much. Now, some things have been lost to history. A maraba. The visual size of an average crop field. It is not obsolete. So, somebody added a note. This person noted that, I guess, maybe they didn't think it was supposed to be on this list, but they weren't able to take it off this list, but they were able to add to this article or something. They said it's not obsolete. So, yeah, sometimes Wikipedia could get a little more polished. Sometimes you get the cases like this where we're on an article called List of Obsolete Units of Measurement, and when you click the thing, you read it is not obsolete. But usually Wikipedia is pretty self-knit and held together well. Often. Now, not with all historical stuff or all biographical details or things. I mean, more so with, like, if you need a list of sub-subjects of a subject or such. Now, in Morgan, we read about this one a bit ago. This was one of the horse plowing something ones. An ox gang showed up somewhere, too. Now, it's funny to imagine what units of measurement, if you were like your own self-knit community in your life, would be useful to use. Like here, maybe it would be like the amount of dice that fit on an average table is called a dicium or something. You know, what measurements would show up in your life is interesting to think about. This one's about a hectare. This one was used to measure the cross section of pipes. So this was how thick pipes were. It was like a unit like that. And then unit of area equivalent to 60 Irish acres. It's an Irish acre. It's a different thing than an acre. And a vergate, or vergit. Okay. What about energy? Well, there's a poncelet, an obsolete unit of power once used in France. Measuring energy is a possible thing you could do. For example, joules and things like that are related to energy in terms of non-obsolete units. Not JEWELS, but JOULES is a non-obsolete energy-related unit. Now, technical atmosphere, a unit of pressure. And these ones will be hard to jump into until we've defined more and done episodes about some of the non-obsolete units of energy, because these are lesser known, what they're referencing as the non-obsolete forms to an average person. Now, length. Everyone knows length. Everyone knows there's this debate over feet and yards versus meters and centimeters and stuff. Now, yes. Okay, so I live in America where they use feet and yards. They don't use the metric system. They use this imperial system. And yes, the metric system is better. However, don't shoot me, but I'm going to say it. The imperial system has some some benefits that the metric system doesn't. Don't kill me for saying it. Everybody is like, no, you idiot American, the metric system's better. And it's like, yes, I would prefer the metric if I have to pick one or the other. If those are our only options and the humanity is not allowed to evolve and ever change, and all I'm allowed to pick is this binary between two systems of the past, then I want to pick metric, yes. However, its benefit is that it splits units into what's purely divided by where your base moves a decimal or radix point. But 10 is our base number, and 10's not that divisible. So the metric system does have problems that the other system doesn't. It's not threeven. You cannot take a meter and say a third of a meter in terms of centimeters without using point infinite threes in your decimal. And so there are problems with the metric system because it's tied to base 10. So sometimes there's a thing where people are wrong about something, but then the other people are so mad about the people who are wrong that they create their whole wrong thing as well. Like in this case, people are wrong that the imperial system was logical in any way. But then people fire back like, you'd have to be an idiot American to think it has any benefit over the metric system. And that's not true. A foot to an inch is silly that it's not the same amount as a foot to the next unit, but it's 12, which is a highly more divisible number than 10 that you can take thirds and fourths of, which you can't do in the splitting in tenths on that scale on that. And you can't do thirds on any scale on the metric. So we're going to have to do an episode someday that's about how both the metric system and the imperial system are pretty bad. And that, yes, Americans are dumb for not switching to the metric system because it is currently the better of the two alternatives. But no, the metric system is not ideal. It cannot process threeven fractions. Now, that's a topic for another day. Let's go on to some length. First, let me just take a peek at our comments real quick. Like I said, every, 10, 20 minutes, I like to take a peek at our comments. Somebody said, imagine if you got paid in negative bills. Well, I want to note something about negative currency. Some people misunderstood something I said once, which was that I don't think this is what the commenter was saying here, but it reminds me of, I made an episode like 10 episodes ago or something on the main combo class channel that was about balanced ternary, a numeral base where you have 0, 1, and -1 that functions similar to 2. Because in base 3, 2 has many traits that -1 could do the same job describing. So 0, 1, and -1 as your digits in a base 3-like thing make up this system called balanced ternary. And I said at the end that it makes for a very good currency system to have all your coins be in base 3. And to have your coins be powers of 3 works really well because of balanced ternary, you only need 1 coin of each type per person to do any transaction. I can say, like, if I want to give you $14 or you want to give me $23 or any amount of those, if we each have a $1, a $3, a $9, a $27 and stuff like that, then it works. We only need 1 of each. Similarly, if we do a powers of 5, we would each need 2 of each because it would function like balanced base 5. But some people misunderstood that in the video because I said, if we use the logic of balanced ternary, powers of 3 would make good coins. They took it to mean that I was saying we should have a coin be worth a negative amount, that the coins would be worth some of them would be worth a negative amount of a power of 3. By a negative amount in a transaction, it means the other person giving you a positive coin. The humans in that interaction only had positive coins, but if you give them 1 versus if they give you 1, one of those are positive or negative in comparison to each other in the net transaction. And so when I said negative there, and if that comes up again, note that it doesn't mean your coins are negative. It means that in a transaction, there is a negative at play from the opposite party paying that amount. So what I was saying there is that powers of 3 make good coins, and we may come back to that idea someday in the future as well. Now, people are saying to tap the like and everything. That's very nice. The most helpful things are to make sure that everybody is in tune with the main longer horizontal videos I drop, because those are what I'm most proud of spreading, which are on the combo class now, and soon we'll be back on this channel. We'll have more bonus horizontal videos and shorts literally dropping this week. I know I said that last week, but I have them filmed, just need to finish some edits. So there'll be more random full videos. The streams, leave as many comments as you can. Likes are cool too, but comments are probably more helpful. But I know anyway that YouTube just doesn't spread my streams that much compared to how they spread my other content. They're really nice to my shorts, medium nice to my long-term videos or long-form videos, and not that nice to my streams, but whatever. The streams aren't like my main content for the month or whatever. They're fun bonus things for people who like that sort of longer podcasty vibe, or who are just enough of a combo lord to need all those extra facts and extra laughs. So the streams just help us build a good community. They're also pretty fun for me. Sometimes I take a little break when I need a breather. I'm going to do that in a minute. I need to take like a 3-minute intermission while I play a beat I made recently. I'll show the updated version of a beat I've been working on. But, you know, the streams are fun, where I treat it as a more casual thing. I enjoy it. Helps us build a community, and while it's, you know, requires me to be very focused for a few hours, it also is therapeutic in a way. So, while the like buttons help and stuff, the best is just leave nice comments when you feel I deserve it. So, and watch all the long form ones for sure. Now, hello to everybody chatting and saying hello. Back to looking at our Wikipedia that I have pulled up here. We got a bunch of units of length. Now, let's look through. Do I have a yardstick or ruler stick here? I'm not sure where that went, but I had at some point in the classroom some, you know, yardsticks, ruler sticks, meters, whatever, one of them, an amount of distance. But it's funny when you're trying to think of a concrete unit of distance. I like writing fiction things. Someday I hope to publish some fiction stories, and some of those, if I imagine writing about some, you know, planet, another planet with aliens, or some future society, or some different fantasy society or whatever, and you want them to have a term for their lengths. Unless you spend a lot of time in your text defining how it came about, you can't just say that, oh, it was 4 quinglongs long, or your viewer won't know what to visualize. So you're kind of stuck sometimes, even if you write a fantasy book, either like over describing every unit of measurement or using some of the ones that were in your actual society that your readers will just know what you mean. So like when I write fiction, even though I like it to be its own world that's not like forced into American society too much, I still sometimes have to be like, all right, we're going to call the distance meters, because even if they're imperfect, I don't want to have to make my viewer read a few paragraphs of me defining what some other in-universe measurement was, you know? So, unless your book's about in-universe measurements, which you could find a way to make it interesting. Now, here for some units of length, let's just look through a few of these, and I do need to use the bathroom in a moment, and I'll put on that beat I was mentioning. But we're going to go through the amount that's on the screen right here at least first. Well, let's see how many lengths. We'll go through length first. You got an owled, an obsolete Mongolian, the length between a man's outstretched arms. That's funny. That is not a typical unit. See, I'm like a little shorter than average, I think, so I would probably have a slightly shorter ald than the average person. So you don't measure the ald from me. Don't measure the ald from my friend Evan. That guy's really tall. That guy will give you an over measurement for your ald. So some of these vary a lot. I mean, this one, for most like men, they would measure whatever that means, the outstretched arm distance of whatever that means. It would be at least maybe within twice of the scale, or like 2 or 3 times at the maximum distance. Some of those other ones may have been even more off, like the amount that 8 oxen could plow in a day or whatever. That seems very different for types of farmer, oxen, landscape, or whatever. It's like, man, why is that guy like, why are you measuring the guy over there who has like 8 really beefy, strong oxen, and he's this old, smart farmer on this nice meadow? Or are you measuring the guy who is like figuring out farming and bought 8 oxen on Temu and is like working off some gravel patch? So it's interesting, the ones that are quite subjective. Maybe aliens think our measurements are subjective. Maybe there's places in the universe where time and space distort so much that they're like, these people think that they're measuring a meter is always a meter. Oh, those silly humans. That ald is smaller than my ald. Now, an allen or allen is that many centimeters. So now that we're in length, we are basically in a 2D version of area. Some of these may even be in conjunction with the area units. Like, they may say like, hey, guess what? A parasang by a parasang is the area of a maraba. Probably not that specific one, but could be something like that. So an angula measures a length, and 108 of them is a danusha. And these, the length of the middle finger. Okay, so I get to do this without any parents getting offended. This is how long your angula is. I'm just quoting Wikipedia, everybody. So, next we got an Arabic mile. Now, an Arabic mile is the predecessor of the nautical mile, which I think is still used. The nautical mile, so there are nautical miles which have a speed unit related to them, which is called the knot, which is a funny thing I realized once, that I think these are related, that knot is, I think, short or related to being short for nautical. If you've ever heard of knots as a speed. But here they correspond to things about latitude and such. So those are interesting, but they're not obsolete. We're on the obsolete ones. It's a predecessor of the nautical mile. And it contains 4,000 cubits, which every time you click one unit, you go down a whole rabbit hole. The cubit is 4 conglomerons. Each conglomeron is the area of a Vlingon by a Varengus. And a Varengus is a this, and a Vlingon is a that. And a Vlingon is the amount of grapes a field of oxen can eat in 3 days. And the other one is the amount of squirrels that show up in an average combo class episode. Now, here we will go back to our lengths, to Turkish units of length related to cube, and it means forearm. So a lot of these are like a unit of length you would use in ancient times would be the average forearm. Now, you know the unit foot does come from being somewhere around the size of, okay, this is hard to do. The size of a foot, you know, somewhere around the size of a foot is a foot. So some of these come from parts of the body, which is logical because you're out in nature. You're like, okay, I named it how thick a tree is. And then you go a few miles away and you're like, uh-oh, they have a different type of tree. Their trees are a lot thicker. Our term doesn't make sense to them. But if you were traveling around the planet, like I said, although humans are different sizes, the length of an average adult forearm won't be that different from place to place. It'll be within twice or half of the other place, probably. So you can imagine that using the human body would be something that would come up a bunch, you know. Other ones where those would be even more obsolete would be the ones that are like how long a fish is. Because it's like, oh, all the fish here are the same length. It makes sense. We got to use the unit. It's called a fish long. But then you go to the other place and they're like, a fish long? A fish long's massive because they have some type of whale there or something. So, now, yes, I know a whale's not a fish, but bamboo is not just, oh, bamboo, a type of unit called bamboo, eh? That must mean the amount of coolness bamboo is. Ooh, bamboo. Yes, there is bamboo right behind the combo classroom. Not too much of it, but there's a small, strange corridor filled with bamboo. And if you are an intruder listening to this, then there's also a lot of spy traps in there. So, you know, just to warn all the intruders. Now, bamboo is not just that, but it is also an obsolete unit of length that was used in India and Myanmar. And it is, once again, we need to define them in other ones. 1,000 bamboos is 1 dine, and 1 dine is 7 soundongs. So these don't have articles of their own, and we have now hit a dead end. All right. So some other ones include a barleycorn is 1/3 of an inch. Okay, so this was another thing I saw that made me want to do a stream or something like this. And I've also taken some notes that someday maybe I'll turn this type of topic into an episode. Because when you look into which things are how many of different things and how you can define them in terms of each other, these are units of length in terms of each other or something. And look at all these freaking types. Oh, a twip is 20 points or vice versa. You got a line. You got a poppy seed and a barleycorn. It's what? You coming up with every freak. Okay. So they just, one guy was just bored one afternoon. Okay, we're going to call a candle is worth 4 barleycorns. And let's call a platter is worth 4 candles. And we're going to say a walnut is worth 3.8 platters. And I'm just like really bored one afternoon or something. So you got some of these I know. I've heard of many of these, but it's like barleycorn, poppy seed. These are words that mean other things, folks. There's so many sounds in the language. If you really needed a term for this thing, for a third of an inch, you couldn't have called it like a vlinch or something? Find something that isn't a word yet instead of naming them after things that they're not really, like a barley corn. Is that really a third of an inch? Maybe some people's barley corn. So I guess maybe this is one where here's the one reason I would find this to make sense. Maybe there was a time where barley corn just meant the width of a barley corn. And then it turned into being, they tried to make it precise by doing that. 3 barley corns, round and dry, the basis of the inch. So we'll have to look more into barley corns and poppy seeds someday. I'll save this link to look into for next time I eat some barley corn and poppy seeds. And well, I'll keep that open in an extra tab in case we want to come back to barley corn later. So button was used in the UK as a 1/12 of an inch. Oh, yeah, and there you go. All of these international people saying that it's only because I'm a dumb American that I say there's any benefit to the foot involving 12ths. Well, here out in the UK, they took even 1/12 of the inch. That is 1 gross. I'm serious. 1 gross is 144. So I don't see why we couldn't say 1 gross to mean 1/144th of a foot. So it's not just the US that's dumb. Now, here we have the Kana, the former crown of Aragon. And you got the cubit, the distance from the elbow to the tip of the middle finger. The L. The word literally means arm and related to elbow. So when you hear an L, you can think elbow to fingertip. And a giraffe was something that long. And you got a goose. And this was used for measuring textiles and was another obsolete one related to textiles. And you got a hath, which was equal to 24 angli, or 2 hath to a gaz. And you got a jow. And you got a lachter. And I was in the mining industry, used to measure depth tunnel diving and the size of mining tunnels. So if you're writing a fantasy book, think about what interesting unit of measurement might they have that would relate to what their culture or economy requires a lot, like mines, or what they use a lot traditionally or whatever. Aligne. And I wonder what percent of these I'm pronouncing close to right. Is it half? Is it more or less than half? I don't know. Aligne is a historic unit of length. The word looks like length. It also looks like line. And you ever thought about that one? Line, length. And you ever thought about this one? That's probably, this one I just thought of, that's probably not actually one. You ever thought about area? Has the word R in English in it. You see A-R-E spells out R. So like area. So look, the word R, A-R-E, pi R squared, because Areas Pyarsk. Okay, I'm kidding. That one was not actually part of the origin of the word. This one, however, was probably related. Line, length. And this was used to measure watch casings, button making, and ribbon manufacture. This sounds like the least important historical ever. I mean, I'm sure it made sense for their economy or something, but come on. These old people had some real things to measure. How many grapes their oxen could eat in an afternoon. But here, you're just talking about some watch casings and some buttons. I'm sure it made sense. Now, going backward, we got a line. A line, hopefully if you enjoy combo class, you know what a line is. Actually, not everybody knows all types of not this type of line. You probably don't know what this type of line is. But even the other type of line, now that I think about it, some people use line to refer to what's called a line segment. Some people use it to refer to what is geometrically called a line. In any case, some people, not much anymore, also use the word line to refer to a small English unit of length, this amount of an inch. You see, I told you that the imperial system that everyone says the U.S. is dumb for using, it wasn't that long ago that they took it even further out in Britain and stuff. It's not that long ago. I know the metric system makes more sense nowadays, but it's too base 10 independent. What we really need is a metric system that functions like the metric system, but within base 6 or base 12. Now, here we have the Macedonian cubit. Here we got the pace. Oh, a pace. I was like, that sounds like a new foreign term I haven't heard of. No, they just mean like a pace, like a walking step, like when you pace. How long? It's a pace. Like a walking step. So, there's a palm. I'm guessing, yep, it is a palm. Wait. Which one's the palm? Which one is the palm here? The palm 3? Okay, that makes sense. 3 is the palm. I was going to say, if they say 4 right here is called the palm, I was what? No, but 3 being the palm? Okay, I feel that. Now, a parasang is a walking distance, the length of which varied according to terrain and speed of travel. It's about 3 or 3.5 miles, which is about 5 kilometers. And where was it derived? 10 parsouth, which we have to see how that connects, is the distance a man can walk in a day once. These are often things like that. Like they have the things that you can observe if you haven't some other thing like feet or meters to base it on. The things you could try and observe right there are like human body size, like how long a day lasts, stuff like that. So it's funny that they sort of have to combine those and be like, they use time to create a non-time related unit. Like length is a unit not dependent on time, but a lot of these are defined using time as a middleman, being like how it's the amount of length or area that this type of animal or human can do in this amount of time for a certain job. So interestingly, like the way of defining a non-time based thing often used time. You know, how much a human can plow in a morning with an oxen or things like that. Ipes. I used to eat Pez. Now, I know that's spelled with a Z. Trust me, when I make dumb jokes, I hope you don't interpret it as me actually being dumb, but I like to throw in dumb jokes here and there. Now, pyramid inch is a unit of length that is, it was believed to be that much. It's funny, it's like, What do you mean believed to be? Humans are the one who defined it. You can just say whether it is that or not. Like, it's not like this is the pyramid inch is how far it's related to light speed and gravity, and it's a fundamental force that is believed to be 1/25th of a cubit. It's like, what do you mean believed to be? But what they probably mean is that some of the traces of what it was used for have been lost to history. That it was super old. And that, pyramidologists are the people who describe this. They believe the pyramid inch was something that they used in some measurement when building pyramids back in the day. The pyramid inch might have related to like the thickness of some certain sort of brick or nail, or like the length of a nail they used to use or something. However, wait a minute. The pyramid inch now appears to have no significant scientific support. No direct evidence for it has been found. Hey, you pyramidologists, what are you talking about then? All right, so the pyramid inch was claimed by pyramidologists, but maybe we shouldn't trust these pyramidologists. All right, so the rod is... Now I know what they meant by that. Okay, now this description was written by a pyramidologist. Pyramidologist sounds like a term for like someone in the Illuminati. You a pyramidologist? Now, the rod, perch or pole, is related to, it's a unit of length that's useful because in integer multiples of it can form acres. And the perfect acre. You ever heard of the perfect acre? That's funny. If you're naming variations, they're usually called like the British inch, the pyramid inch and stuff. But if you get to name yours, but usually other people name your discoveries when you have proven that they're worthwhile. You usually don't get to name your discovery yourself, and that's often seen as a sign of cockiness when you do, unless you're just making silly nicknames and having fun. But if you do have a choice in like swaying the name of what your variation on the inch or whatever is going to be called, putting perfect in front of it is a pretty good play. They're like, hey, we're not just going to call ours like the Canadian acre or wherever it happened to come from. We're calling ours the perfect acre. We're not calling ours the pyramid acre. That didn't work out for the pyramidologists. We'll call ours the perfect acre and sneak that one into some textbooks. All right, so some rods, some perches, and some poles. And you got a Sana Lamgel. This was defined by the ruler of the kingdom. Equal to the distance from the floor to the tips of the fingers of the one ruler. This is defined by this one person. When this person raises the fingers of his raised right hand while standing, plus 4 finger widths. And he made it be a standard. And then after the unit became obsolete. Yeah, I imagine it should have become obsolete as soon as this dude died, because it's based on one guy's height. So, this one, also imagine like, sometimes when you get older, you get shorter or your posture gets worse. Like all of the measurements start getting off when the guy gets older because he's like hunched over a bit. And it's like the height up to how high he can lift his hands straight isn't as tall anymore. Now, how about a spat? Just equals to that many. This just seems like somebody wanted to make something cool sounding. Well, I'm going to make something that's 1 billion kilometers. Oh, no, wait, it's just, a billion. I'm sure it has some uses. Actually, maybe it doesn't. There's not much on here. It probably has some uses in astronomy, but it's obsolete for some reason. This is just some astronomer who just wants to be cool. Oh, people have units named after them. I want to name a unit. Mine's going to be 1 billion kilometers. A kilometer is already 1,000 meters. Why didn't they just write that this was 1 trillion meters? So, a stadion. A stadion, we don't know exactly how long it is, but is it related to a stadium? Because it's pretty long. So, yeah, the word stadium was... So I think this was like how long a stadium was. It's called a stadion or something. Hard to see. So, or no, here it was used in measuring the distance in a journey. Oh no, that was why he used it. But maybe he was just saying like, I walked like this many stadiums worth. So he called it a stadion. Something like that, maybe. Now, step is kind of like pace. I think it is also just referring to if you take a big step. But they define it about exactly how long they say it is. And the pace is the similar one we saw. What about an ungly? It's 3/4 of an inch. And it's obsolete. A vara doesn't have its own article. A Johanna. This one, the Johanna or Johanna is... Oh, it's pretty big because it's measuring Earth's diameter in just like 1,000 of them. So these are big. Oh, this is a good one. So here are the Hindu units of length for some of these. This one equals the size of the smallest moving speck of dust visible to the naked eye. That's a cool unit. Tip of hair strand, size of a knit, size of a louse, width of a barley grain. Oh, how many cultures name all their units after barley? Barley grain, finger breadth, the breadth of a foot, span or distance between the tip of the forefinger and wrist, a cubit. These things, man's height with arms and fingers uplifted, standing reach. The distance, oh, this one's starting to get a little more subjective and interesting again. The distance at which a cow's call or this can be heard. How far can you hear a cow? That's a good unit. And varies in these ones. Those are interesting. So... next, we got luminosity and stuff. Now, I need to take a 1-second break to use the bathroom, grabs... Whoa, what just fell? A bird is up there, and it somehow knocked off like a really big branch. It's like a tiny bird knocked off a big branch. But it must have been a loose branch already. All right, I'll be back in a few minutes. We'll do a little intermission. I said I would put on my beat I was working on, but I don't want to set that up quite yet. I'm just going to run inside real quick and do a brief break, and I also think that there's a good chance that the squirrels will return when I stop talking for a minute. So, in case the squirrels return while I'm not talking, we're going to have this right here. Squirrel may come up to grab it. I will be back, and if it's gone, then I'll re-roll the footage. If it's still here, then either way, we will look at some strange units of luminosity and other cool units, and I will also check the chat before long. All right, love you all. I'll be back soon. No squirrel. So, however, thank you for everybody who stuck around in our little intermission. And looking at our comments, let's see what else people have been noting. People have noted that lots of nice cool things. Now we are going to move soon into other sorts of unit of measurement, such as luminosity. Now, luminosity is how bright things can be. And that was one that I hadn't really thought of when I was doing a quick brain scan of what units of measurement would exist. Would you have ones that measure, temperature, for example, I'm sure, length, area, weight, and such. But luminosity, there's a whole nother thing you can measure. How bright something is. I guess I sort of thought that when I was imagining tints of black to white, but more so when looking at a painting or a computer image or things like that than, say, a candle or a lantern. Well, candle power is a pretty cool term. It's candle power is how strong a candle is. You know how you get horsepower for how strong horses are? I want my lanterns to be in terms of candle power. That would sell a lantern. If you say this thing is 200 candle power or something. Oh, and look, you could even put in grains per hour. Candle. So you could say that a pure candle of this sort burns at a rate of 120 grains per hour. And so that's your the grains per hour is the origin of your candle power metric, I believe. And here it looks like the international candle was something that has been redefined from time to time again. You have the candela has now replaced candle power, and the candela, or candela, I believe is still used for things. But I guess candle power, for whatever mix of reasons, is now obsolete. Now, the other ones on here are carcel burner. A carcel related to a carcel burner, I guess, is a particular device. They were measuring it in terms of a Hefner candle. Some of these, I believe, are just devices that within these devices they named how strong that is the unit, or how strong it is at a certain setting is the unit. This person seems like may have also had a term named after them. The standard for luminous intensity was maybe first proposed by this fella, which was the amount of light emitted by 1 square centimeter of platinum at its melting point. And it's a lot bigger than candle power, it looks like. So, beyond that, there are many weird ones of mass and weight, temperature, volume, and such. We're going to maybe have to jump to the other pages that I have here, because while it's interesting to see these little ones and think of which to jump to, some of the other articles I had here are in a slightly more glossary-like fashion and would be a little easier to skim through for the rest of our bit of our stream, which we're probably going to stream for somewhere around 2 hours today, maybe a little less. And to anybody who is needing to leave early, make sure that you peek at the new episode on the main combo class channel linked in the description, all about clock units, because all the clock units we're not covering today. Now, we'll probably come back to this obsolete one for this page, because we only went through some of the ones on this particular page, and we'll leave ourselves with where we left off, which was mass or weight. But I do want to look at these other glossaries to make sure we have time for all these, which is whatever they chose to define as not just obsolete units necessarily, but unusual units and humorous units. Now, the humorous units are ones that maybe were made more for the sake of humor, and maybe the unusual ones will be ones that were meant to be practical sometimes, but that may have a similar edge of humor to them. Here on our humorous ones, which I suppose will start on this end, well, I guess they consider this humorous, even though it is something that has been used and is still used as a term, at least, if not as an official measurement, the fortnight. No, I do not mean that little video game where you do your dabs and stuff. I mean the fortnight spelled... I'm not even sure if the game I think is spelled different, but fortnight of this sort is 14 days, 2 weeks. And many people don't realize why it's called a fortnight. 14 days is the reason. It's 14 days night. Or I guess you could say it's 14 nights worth. So it's a 14 nights. And this is a fun term. Sometimes it comes in handy. Some people try and call something that happens this often bi-monthly, because it means twice a month about. But bi-monthly can also mean every other month, because the English language is foolish. So, the term bi-monthly or bi-yearly or bi-hourly or things like that can either mean half or twice. So fortnight actually is a quite useful term to mean about half a month. It's a little less than half a month, but 2 weeks. Now, here you have your firkins and your furlongs, which are your FFF, which I guess the FFF unit system is a combination of 3 different outdated units of different sorts, and partially combined for the alliteration. You know how sometimes I name my titles of the episodes, even more so the live streams, I like putting in random alliteration sometimes in the titles, so instead of giving them a clear title, sometimes I can't help but call it like The Candlelit Chronicles of the Chaotic Combo Clorb, or whatever, starts in C's or something. But this is possibly alliterative as a reason they thought it would be funny for your system to define all your length in this F term, all your mass in this F word, and all your time in that F word. So to all those younger kids who hear that there are some F words that you're not supposed to ever say or even look up, these are the ones that they are referring to. No, I'm joking, because there actually is, like, some F words that are actually mean and really bad words. And then there are some that are, like, sentence enhancers that I have to bite my tongue to not say. But there are other ones that are called the F word that are really mean toward groups of people and are bad terms. But these are actually the truly forbidden F terms, because this would be a pretty cursed system. Now, the Great Underground Empire, also known as Zork, is... See, this is why I'm saying I believe this is purposefully funny units of measurement. So these are fictional things that they came up with and there he is, the squirrel. Where'd it go? Somewhere back there, or was it not? Maybe it was just a little bird or something. In any case, some of these on this page are more so purposefully humorous, which while those are funny, I'm more interested in the other page we're about to go to, which is unusual elements, that some of these would be impurposefully funny. We got to be honest, folks. Some of the funniest things in life are when somebody wasn't trying to be funny and they were being kind of ridiculous. Like it or not, you got to admit that some of the funny things in life are not always the things that were intentionally cooked up by a comedian, but things that happened on some foolish accident or representative of some human's particular sillinesses or weaknesses or whatever. So the funniest ones sometimes rely on a little bit of mockery. Of course, if I'm mocking anybody's units, they can mock my unit all they want. We're all subject to mockery. We're allowed to... joking around is okay as long as you're actually being nice. And of course, do not be mean to individual people or groups of people. But making fun of the terms that have pervaded society may, tear down some people along with them. But we must mock these terms if we are willing to grow and improve. Now, these are some that are unusual that I would like to see. This is a game engine, a little less interested in what they designed for their game engine. The hand, this one, it is exactly 4 inches, but it measures the height of horses. So although it's called hand, it's for measuring horses. Light nanosecond is a fun term. This is not actually an unusual... Well, it's unusual, I guess, but it's really just a usual term with a usual prefix. So this is only unusual in the combination of this, but a light second is a thing, and nano can mean a billionth, and so we can say that a light nanosecond is a perfectly logical term. And... a horse. The horses are used to measure distance in horse racing. So a horse length, shortened to merely a length. Well, here they're being confusing because they're like, okay, it's shortened to length when the context makes it obvious. But they didn't shorten it to length here. They shortened it in the exact opposite way. They shortened it to horse. Is it called a horse length? A length? Or a horse? It could be called any of them. Shorter distances are measured in fractions of a horse length. Common measurements that are fractions include a head, a neck, or a nose. So if you ever hear a measurement that is like, hey, this thing is a head long, I guess you're not supposed to assume a human head. You're supposed to assume a horse head, which is a lot bigger. So, it's the horse. These are so different. I'm sure the horses vary, but once again, sort of like the human ones from history, the horse ones to a degree make sense because how far off could it be? If you're not able to standardize something as a culture back in the past and you need something to standardize it off, maybe the horses were semi-regular to look at, the non-outlier horses maybe would be like human forearms within twice or half of each other. Now, this is interesting. I have been to horse races before because there's this really cheap place that they closed that happened to be by the marina that did horse races here. I'll think about that before we explain those stories because I'll have to make sure to make some disclaimers or something. A lot of people will feel bad for the horses, which is logical, and it's an understandably cruel activity like many sports are. So I don't know if I would go to a horse race again, but I have been to horse races in the past because they did have a thing called Dollar Day where you got all this free stuff for $1. So, and it's because it was by the marina where I go hiking. They closed that place, actually, but there was this massive horse racing track down by the marina, Golden Gate Fields. They closed it quite recently. So, last Dollar Day I will ever go to, I guess it was a few years ago or something. But, it's been a while by now, many years. But, horse racing can be a cruel and unusual activity. I would believe if I were to read the details. If I believe that, it verges towards some of the moods of hunting for sport, which is sort of unneedlessly cruel activity. If I ever were to go hunting, it would only I would feel very uncomfortable doing it, but if I ever decided to do it for like a once in a life, you got to try everything sort of thing, it would only be in the context where I knew I would be able to eat the food I hunted. It would feel awful to injure an animal and not have, gotten some greater good out of it. Without the greater good, you gotta be nice to your animals. People think that I just break everything and make everything fall and shatter and hurt, but animals like me. That includes people too, but people are animals. But notice that no matter how much stuff I seem to break and destroy, the animals keep coming back. My cats love me, the squirrels love me. Animals are a different story. You got to be nice to them, and you have to make sure that they don't get subjected to your chaos to the wrong degrees. Boats, however, I don't care. You can mess up a boat however you want. I've heard if anyone is thinking of buying a boat to think twice, because apparently a lot of people buy boats and the boat costs cheap because somebody's trying to get rid of the boat. And it's like, why would you want to get rid of a fully functional boat? It would be cool to own a boat. And it's because it takes an unbelievable amount of maintenance. If you don't have like a street to park it on, or you need you need like a driveway to park it, because you can't park a car in the same spot on a street for too long. Otherwise, the city or a neighbor will get mad if it's there for like a year or whatever. And if you have the boat on the water, then you have to keep doing maintenance because the boat's in the water. And something just being wet 24/7 is going to, or let's not call it 24/7. Let's call it like 8 barley corns, 4 paces, whatever. We're on new units now, but 25/6, if your boat's wet, then it requires a lot of maintenance, apparently. So I've heard stories of people who really regret buying a boat because a boat is cheap, but maintaining a boat each year is not cheap. So boats are measured in boat lengths, or more like the racing of boats is measured in that. Football field can be considered a length. A block can be a length. A earth radius can be a length. A lunar distance, a seriometer, and we've talked about the cubit. Now, how about a barn? A barn, whoa! So here's where we take a shift. All these things are named after the thing that they are. They're like, okay, a horse length. It's how long a horse is. A boat length. It's related to how long a boat is. Okay, a football field length. You can guess what that one is. A barn, that's the opposite scale of a barn. It is 10 to the negative 28th power square meters, about the size of the nucleus of a uranium. Well, that is small. That is far smaller than a human eye can see. Now, this is because they said it's trying to hit a barn door, and it's as big as a barn. I guess they were saying as half jokes, half nicknames to help their experiment when they were trying to work on uranium nuclei. So oh my God, a micro barn. The barn's already pretty small. When are you going to need a micro barn? What's so small that you got to measure it with something called a micro barn? Okay, we got to find micro barn. The micro barn is, oh my God, these barns go small. Yocto barn. Do we even know anything on Earth that's as small as a Yocto barn, or is this just like a hypothetical term? Have we ever measured? I'll have to look that up, if we've even ever measured anything a Yocto barn long. Usage example. They're not using Yocto barns in the usage example. I don't know. They are using microbarns per second, inverse microbarns, wait a minute. Does that mean it's big, that you're the inverse of a microbarn? We'll have to study this more someday. So, a brass or square, and some cow's grass, and a football field. And the Morgan we saw. Now, these are ones that are sometimes used as a unit of measure in journalism. I guess often Wales, for whatever reason, the country Wales, which is funny because you might think it was the other type of whale. Wales could be a good measurement. It is as big as a whale. But no, it's Wales, the country. So apparently often that is used as a reference point for whatever reason for how big stuff is. And somebody used kilo whales, 1,000 times a whale, or nano whales. Those sound useful. The U.S. is used a lot. Whatever. We're in the U.S. Boring. I'm not super patriotic. Sorry to all my hyper patriotic U.S. people. Cool. Freedom. Win. Yay. Not a very useful unit though. Now, other countries. Lot of cool stuff. Metric ounce. These are, okay, shot, like a shot glass. Okay. Board foot or super foot. Hoppus foot. They cord and rick. This one measures firewood and other types of wood. This is a cord of wood, so that's useful. I think I've even heard this one before. I remember seeing that term. But, so, a cord, that's a lot of wood. So you only need to buy a cord of wood when you're trying to prep for, like, wheat. Like, this is, if you were burning wood all day, if you were, like, literally burning wood all day, this would last more than a week. And if you were burning wood at night, this would last more than a month, I think. Maybe not more than a month, but you could burn wood every night, and this would last definitely more than a week. And a cord of wood, wow. It's a lot of wood. Now, the 20-foot inch, the smallest standard shipping container, okay. Some casual units. These are more that are used as comparison points. A double-decker bus. Some people are like, that's as big as a double-decker bus. It's useful to have these casual ones. One that I wonder if they'll put on here is a bread box. Because you ever played 20 questions, where you have 20 questions to ask somebody, and they're yes or no questions, and you try and narrow in on what they picked. So say I pick squirrel. Then first you might, sometimes your first question gets 3 options for some reason. I don't know if this is the way other people learn, but the way I learned, you get to start by asking if it's an animal, vegetable, or mineral. It sounds random. We'll go into that another day. Animal, vegetables, and minerals. But normally you get yes or no questions. And for some reason, there's like a trope or something that one of the most common questions of how you phrase one of them is it bigger than a bread box? Or is it smaller than a bread box? And your yes or no to that is like one of the ways of gauging the size of if you find out they're talking about an item. Like at first you're like, is it a noun? Well, I guess maybe it has to be a noun. I forget how it works. But, if you're like, is it technology? Can it fit in your pocket? No. Well, is it bigger than a bread box? So that was one that I always remember as like a bread box being like a unit of size that was mentioned for that. I even remember seeing it referenced in one of the best cartoons is the cartoon called The Far Side by Gary Larson. That's like, out of all the cartoons there are of those shorter panel cartoons, there's a lot of cheesy, not that thoughtful ones out there, but it's a pretty fun art form overall. To be a cartoonist, I respect that. It's cool, you gotta, in a lot of them, you have to try and make a joke like every 3 or 4 squares. That is an art form. It's practically like trying to be a one-liner stand-up comedian. But there aren't that many that I've seen that I would hold like as true high art to a magnificent degree, but I feel like it has a lot of potential for that. Some that are high art include Calvin and Hobbes, and include this one called The Far Side that's brilliantly surreal. And I remember they referenced it in this one, All right, calm down, everyone. The monster. Would you say is bigger or smaller than your building? It's a bread box company. All right, now, one of the other ones that I have to show on stream sometime, I don't know if anyone saw the cartoon Heathcliff. It's like a fever dream. It is the weird, it's like surreal in a different way. Like this one's like, the Far Side's like surreal in like a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sort of like clever, funny, sci-fi, fantasy-ish way, mixed with real worldiness and like very like thoughtful and clever. Heathcliff will be like, what is the joke here? But it's some of them have made me laugh harder than anything else, just from the absolute weirdness and absurdity, and not even my lack of understanding what the joke was supposed to be, but in a brilliant way. So we're going to have to go through the Heathcliff comics, which I think are still going sometime. It's this cat who looks like Garfield. I used to read Garfield as a kid too, but those cartoons, while I did enjoy them as a kid, even then I recognized that it was a little lazily created. Not every 3 panels were a magnificently thought out joke. And when you go back and read them, it's pretty lazily created, but on the big scale. I mean, they have had funny ones over the years, but on the big scale, I feel like a lot of those days of comics didn't really have a joke, but in a mundane way. Not like not having a joke in such a absurdist, weird way. I still don't know to what... It's a weird art form to make your viewer genuinely unsure to what degree you're playing a character, or to what degree you're like doing something as a joke, or to what degree it's just weird. But whoever is making Heathcliff, which was one guy, and then one of his relatives took over, I don't know to what degree they are just like trolling the audience and being weird, or to what degree they're like trying to make some joke that doesn't translate. But we got to analyze that someday. It's weirdly hilarious. And anyway, I got very distracted because I was thinking of the bread box as a unit. Back to our units. You have Olympic-sized swimming pools, Royal Albert Halls. You got cricket grounds, Sydney harbors, and Grand Canyons and stuff. What about other things like a flow rate? A miner's inch is how much water flows in 1 unit of time through an orifice of 1 square inch area. That's interesting. It's like if you have normal water and like a sturdy floor, except there's 1 square inch that's cut out of it, how much water would flow through in... Let's say 1 unit of time. What is the unit of time? Which unit of time? I don't know. The miner's inch. We'll investigate that one when we go into a mine someday. We'll be the canary in the coal mine. Hopefully not. And the electron volt mass. Got bag of cement and bag mix. Well, this sounds like something went wrong in the printing press. What is the sentence? The mass of an old bag of cement was 100 weight. The 100 weight. There are 20 hundredweight in a ton. Now, a bag of cement is defined as this much in concrete and petroleum, but some bags of cement are different. There's a whole cement conspiracy, apparently. I don't know about the cement conspiracy. Now, grave. Is it related to like a grave? Oh, no, it's from gravity. It's not related to a grave. Although maybe those terms are related. Is that related? Gravity is down and graves are often down in the ground? Never thought about that. Grave-ity, because when you're in a grave, you go downward. So, a Jupiter, a sun, light distance, light mile. The time for light to travel the specified unit distance by reversing the preceding. Okay. These are sort of just reverse engineering light speed along with another unit. A jiffy. I remember this one. So, yeah, have you ever heard, I'll be back in a jiffy? A jiffy is defined as 100th. Is it 100th of a second? Here it says a 60th. No, here it says 100th. I remember hearing 1/100th. But it's okay. It says in earlier systems it was a 60th. And then it became 1/100th. So the jiffy is 1/100th of a second. So similar to how if somebody says, I'll be there in a second, usually they're overstating it. See my new clock episode on the Combo Class channel for how we could fix that a bit. But, or over or understating it, however you define the fact that usually when you say 1 second, it's more than that. Well, if you say, I'll be there in a jiffy, you are over or understating it even further because that would be 1/100th of a second. You don't even have time to catch your breath after saying, I'll be there in a jiffy, for the jiffy to be up. Now, a micro fortnight. This is in the FFF system we mentioned. A different day. This will come up in our calendar systems episode sequel if we ever do a calendar sequel. We did already do calendars a few months ago. Decimal times, you got the times, you got soul, you got your dog year. Oh, dog year. Here the dog year is 7 years. So, wait. So here it says a dog year is 7 years, and here it says it's a 1/7 of a year. So this is interesting. This would be if you use dog year, which is the way I've heard it defined, 7 years, to mean how much a dog ages in human terms in 1 human year, but as a dog. And this is like some flipped version of that, like almost how much a dog, you know, if you flip the terms of who is the basis and who you're defining it in terms of, you could say that dog to human is 1/7 or 7/1. Now, in fact, it varies depending on breed and stuff. A galactic year, the chrometric time, the moments, and thirds and fourths. What about angular measures? There are so many of these. I didn't realize when I began this as the topic that I would have not nearly enough time to go into a commentary on all of the ones we'd read here, or we'll only get down to a small portion of them. Like I said, today's stream will be about 2 hours or a little under that. So another 10 minutes or so. So we'll go through a little bit more of this page, but we will have to go quickish to even get through all of the unusual units of measurement that they decided to include here. There's been a lot of unusual units of measurement in history. Of course, they're only unusual in terms of us having a modern standard and thinking that, yes, when you measure something, of course you'd be able to find a standard. So it's unusual to have an irregular standard, but for much of history, these would be considered usual units of measurement. And even by some aliens, they may prefer these. You never know. Maybe the aliens still use the, maybe they use the FFF system. Now, that'll be a twist. If NASA finds out aliens use the furlong, fortnight system, that'll be a twist. There'd be no reason they would use a system based on our planet's day cycle, but, you know. Now, binary degrees, binary radians, or brads. I don't need to hear any more weird types of radians. Radians are good, but they already put out gradians. I don't need bradians. Come on now. You heard of gradians? There's 400 of those in a circle instead of radians. 400 gradians in a circle. It's like a degree, but it's not even like radians more. It's like a weird almost like degrees, but 360 is way more divisible than 400, so gradients are far worse. I'm not even going to read what bradians are. That's some bad news, whatever it is. I'm joking. I'll read about bradians later. A grade. Oh, that was what I was just talking about. The milli-earth rate unit and stuff. Energy. These are in terms of bombs and gas and stuff. What about other metric compatible scales? Well, what about a ton of refrigeration? It's a ton of cooling. This is from back in the day when a large block of ice would be used for your cooling. You'd have the ice person come up to your door and they'd deliver your ice for the week, because if you didn't have electricity, don't you still sometimes want to be able to save your meat and vegetables for more than a day? Well, that's where your giant block of ice comes in. And so 1 ton of refrigeration, I wonder if that means 1 ton of ice. How much 1 ton of ice could cool or something? Let's see. Yeah, so 1 ton of ice per day. It's how much that in 1 day, 1 ton of ice could cool. Now, you got for flow, you could say the Amazon River type of flow. That thing's flowing like the Amazon River. Now, you got energy intensity, a lot of intensity, and this list is pretty intensity. And we're not going to finish the list, like I said, because I do have to cut it off at 2 hours, even if I'm still having fun then, because I have stuff to work on. But some of that stuff to work on is editing down fun stuff for this channel. My stuff I'm working on is for this channel still. But we'll skim through a few more. 5 more minutes of skimming. We get some radiation doses, like the banana equivalent dose. Bananas have a tiny amount of radiation. It is something that you may have heard, that you may have wondered, is that a myth or not? If you eat a banana, do you actually get any radiation? Yes, you do. Also, you get radiation from sitting anywhere on the earth. There's radiation from the sun. You also get radiation from a lot of stuff. So the question isn't, did I get any radiation? The question is, did I get too much radiation? And so banana does not give you too much radiation. You can eat a lot of bananas before you got to worry about any radiation issues. Now, what on earth? Oh, okay. The nut fell. That really confused me. Because I was going to plan to make sure I had this left out for when I log off the stream, because the squirrel will come back in a bit later. And it was gone for a second, so that tripped me up. It fell on the ground, so I was like, did the squirrel come and take it and I didn't notice somehow? But no, it's still there. So the banana equivalent dose is not going to kill you. You can eat your bananas without worrying about it being too much radiation. Unless you eat so many bananas that you'll have other issues to worry about, you'll probably find a way to overdose on potassium before you have a radiation issue. Now, here we got a variety of other ones. Micromorts, stadium capacities, data volumes, the mother cow index, nines. Why would you name a unit after just a number? Come on, this is so confusing. They're like, every unit has to either be called after like a noun that it's somewhat similar to, a noun that it has nothing to do with, or like a literal thing from its field, like a number that it's adding a new meaning for. It's like, yeah, we really needed more words that mean 9 here. Okay. Pain. Oh, these are so cool. This is an episode topic for its whole own day. These 2 scales I love. And they're both right here. The Scoville scale, which is the capsaicin or capsaicin one. And the one that this guy Schmidt developed. The one where this dude got himself stung by hella bugs. He was just like stung himself with so many bugs and noted down a scale or a chart of how hard it hurt. And not that many people have done that in history. And so it's actually a useful metric for scientists to still use and compare to if they need to know how much a certain animal sting hurts. You know, pain's pretty subjective, and we have a very small sample size of, for humans, how much does it hurt to get stung by a tarantula hawk or whatever. Now you got people on YouTube trying that, but Schmidt was the OG for that stuff. So we're going to have to, maybe they named it after a guy called Schmidt. Maybe he wasn't the one actually doing it. Because it looks like it says other people are conducting it. Who was the Schmidt they actually named it after? Where do we go? Yeah, so Schmidt did it. Schmidt stung himself a bunch and wrote about it. I guess they were just saying that he didn't name it the Schmidt scale. Like I was saying earlier, usually when you get something named after you, you weren't the one who did it. You created the work and then someone else said, that deserves to be named after that guy. And so I guess they mean that this group named it the Schmidt scale. But like I thought, there was a guy called Schmidt who legitimately was doing this. So that's cool. Then the Scoville scale, which often has been measured in this really interesting way, where you water something down 10 times and water it down 10 times and see at which level a panel of people can taste the heat or not. There's really interesting ways that they have tasted and tested peppers over the years. And yes, I'll eat a hot pepper on stream someday because it would be funny, but I like having challenges, but I don't necessarily have like a crazy high heat tolerance. I really like mildly spicy stuff, but whenever I've tried like something as like a dare type spicy, like stuff that is not for the flavor but is for a dare, that stuff can really knock me on my butt. So you'll have to really talk me into eating one of these on the stream, but we'll do it. If you don't talk me into it, I'll eventually will talk myself into it. And like, here's another one. Why call the unit the Crab after the Crab Nebula? It's so confusing. They had something called a horse that was named after how long a horse was. Crab is not named after how long a crab is. So, in any case, I'm going to wrap up the stream before too long. We do have more stuff we could look at here on other days, because I didn't get through all the humorous ones, which include a lot of purposefully created jokes, like in comedy things, but some of them are also stuff that has just become joking for reasons or other ones. And there's also more to look at on the obsolete units. So someday we will return to this stream concept and look at some more units of measurement. Let me see what we have in our chat. A lot of random cool thoughts. And thank you all for joining me. When I log off now, I'm going to be doing some cool editing for this channel, so there will be more fun stuff coming out soon. And additionally, there's already, I know I've said this before, but some really cool episodes on the other channel I have, the combo class one, the last one about clocks, redesigning all the clocks. I'll give you a little sneak previews there if you want to see it or not, if you can even see it in the visual. It takes YouTube a while. If you watch it after the fact, then all of a sudden they have to process it. So then all of a sudden it goes down to only SD being available, not HD, and the chat goes away. And I have gotten numerous comments over time that say, why didn't you have the chat go? Like they're watching it after, and can't do anything about that. The chat comes back after YouTube processes the HD. So, in any case, to those watching in the future, note that although you can watch them at any point in the future, if the chat is missing or it looks blurry, sometimes that is because it takes YouTube like half a day to do that or something. In any case, lots more fun stuff coming soon. Apart from working on some editing, I'm also going to eat this cool fruit in a minute. Check out, this is one of those mottled green pluots. These ones are pretty awesome. In the inside, this thing's bright red. Let's look in the inside. So, second, wipe off this knife. So, I'm trying to get the squirrels to eat these too. One squirrel ate some of the pluot once, seemed to like it, but it would be good for their diet to mix that in along with the nuts sometimes. And if I ever have just the fruit, I try and feed them. They seem kind of weirded out. And if I have both, they go for the nut. So we'll see how I manage to incorporate fruits and vegetables into their diet. But look, even though it's this mottled green on the outside, bright red and incredibly delicious. There's other ones. I don't have these right here. I should have brought them out. They're inside, that are so bright green. They're just like literally, I got the pluots. They're called pluots also, although we're going to the pluot plumcot conspiracy another day deeper, that are like literally this color. Then there's ones that are like yellowish, like this color. There's ones that are purple on the out, like this color on the outside. The pluot section was just preposterous. I'll take a photo next time at the pluot section, or a video of how many colors of pluots they have. Or if I have the budget, I'll buy one of each color. Now, I'll take a bite of this to wrap up our stream. As I say, thank you all for joining me. Love you all so much. I know I haven't been posting much non-live stream stuff on this channel recently, partially because I've been focused on those last few combo class episodes that were on the longer end, that I did all the editing myself, and they were like 25 minutes each, but also because I have been filming a bunch of fun stuff, and busy for other life reasons, but the stuff that I've been filming, I'm excited to put out very soon, including starting this week, and the next episode I'm also excited to put out too. We're about almost halfway through grade -2. You know how I began combo class like almost a year and a half ago, although this channel is about a year of that, year and a half old. About a year and a half ago I began combo class, and began with grade -1. And we did a whole grade -1. I pulled it off. I went from nothing to having a bunch of viewers. I made a final exam. I made a finale. There was a documentary. We did a whole cool grade -1. 36 episodes, so that it's a highly divisible amount. If you ever want to say, this is the first half, this is the first third, this is the first ninth, this is the first quarter, or because if we switch to base 6 before someday ends, then, well, in base 6, that'll look like exactly 100 episodes. But you might want to write them ranging from 00 to 99, if you ever write them all down. Now, this got me wanting to eat this, so I'm going to eat this and wrap up. And love you all. I will catch you again for more cool antics and various sorts of videos in the next one.